There is a moment that happens in nearly every interaction between an older man and a younger woman. A single moment. And in that moment, she decides everything. She decides if you are a man worth knowing, a man worth respecting, a man worth wanting, or if you are simply another cautionary tale she will laugh about with her friends later. Most men never see this moment coming. They walk into conversations confident. They believe their experience speaks for itself. They assume their years have earned them something. And then, without warning, something shifts. Her energy changes. Her eyes lose their spark. Her responses become polite but hollow. The conversation continues, but the connection is already dead. And here is what haunts me about this pattern. These men never know what went wrong. They replay the interaction in their minds. They analyze their words, their jokes, their questions, and they find nothing obviously broken. Because the mistake was never what they said. The mistake was something far deeper, something invisible, something they have been doing for so long it has become part of who they are. Nietzsche warned us about this. He said that a man can become so trapped in his habits that he forgets they are choices. He acts from reflex, not intention. And slowly, his power drains away without him ever noticing. This is exactly what happens to older men with younger women. They develop habits, ways of speaking, ways of presenting themselves, ways of relating to feminine energy, and these habits feel natural. They feel like personality, but they are not personality. They are patterns, and many of these patterns are killing attraction before it ever has a chance to breathe. Here is the uncomfortable truth that nobody in this space wants to say clearly. The advantage older men have over younger men is real. Experience, emotional stability, resources, wisdom, perspective on life that only comes from years of living. These qualities create genuine value. Younger men cannot fake them. They have not earned them yet. But here is what most older men fail to understand. Having an advantage and knowing how to use an advantage are completely different things. A sword is only powerful in the hands of someone who knows how to wield it. In untrained hands, that same sword becomes a danger to its owner. This is what I see constantly. Older men with every advantage working against themselves, destroying attraction through habits they do not even recognize as habits. And once attraction dies, it does not come back. You do not get a second chance to make her feel something. You do not get to explain your way into desire. Chemistry either exists or it does not. But here is what changes everything. These habits are not permanent. They are not part of your identity. They are simply patterns you learned over time. And what you learned, you can unlearn. Robert Greene said something in his work that shaped how I understand human behavior. He said most people are prisoners of their own patterns. They repeat the same actions and expect different results. True power comes from the ability to see your patterns clearly and change them at will. That is what this video is about. I am going to show you 7 specific habits that kill attraction with younger women. These are not obvious mistakes. You will not find this list anywhere else. These are the invisible patterns that operate beneath the surface. The habits that feel natural but communicate weakness. The behaviors that seem harmless but trigger deep psychological resistance in feminine energy. And I need you to understand something before we go further. This is not about tricks. This is not about manipulation. This is not about pretending to be something you are not. The dark psychology we study on this channel is about understanding human nature at its deepest level. It is about seeing what others miss. It is about operating with clarity while the world operates from confusion. When you understand why these habits kill attraction, you do not need techniques. You do not need scripts. You simply stop doing what does not work. And when you stop doing what does not work, your natural value becomes visible. The experience you have earned, the stability you have built, the wisdom you have gained. All of it finally has space to breathe. Schopenhauer taught that most human suffering comes from wanting, from grasping, from needing things to be different than they are. The habits I am about to reveal all share one thing in common. They come from wanting, from needing, from a place of internal lack. And younger women sense this immediately. Not consciously, not logically, but in their bodies, in their instincts, in that ancient part of feminine psychology that has been selecting for strong men since the beginning of human history. When she senses need, something in her closes. When she senses groundedness, something in her opens. This is not a moral judgment. This is simply how attraction works at the biological level. David Buss spent his career studying mate selection across every culture on Earth. And he found something remarkable. The same qualities that attracted women 10,000 years ago still attract women today. The surface changes, fashion changes, language changes, but the deep structure of desire remains constant. Security, strength, status, and most importantly, the sense that a man does not need her validation to feel complete. This is what the next 40 minutes will teach you. Not how to impress her, not how to win her approval, but how to stop betraying your own value through unconscious habits that communicate the opposite of what you actually are. Let us begin with the first habit. And this one operates so deep, most men will deny they do it even while doing it. Habit number 1. Offering proof before she asks for it. Watch carefully the next time you see an older man talking to a younger woman. Within the first few minutes, he will start explaining himself. Not obviously, not desperately, but subtly, continuously, like a low hum beneath everything he says. He will mention his work in a way that emphasizes success. He will reference travel in a way that suggests sophistication. He will drop details about his life that serve no purpose except to demonstrate value. He is not having a conversation. He is making a case. And she feels every moment of it. This is what I call the uninvited resume, and it is one of the most attraction-killing habits an older man can develop. Here is why it destroys everything. When you offer proof of your value before anyone has questioned that value, you communicate one thing clearly. You believe your value needs defending. And if you believe it needs defending, she will believe it too. Jung described a concept he called the shadow. The parts of ourselves we hide. The insecurities we push beneath the surface because they feel too painful to face directly. But Jung also taught that the shadow does not disappear when we hide it. It leaks. It seeps through in our behavior, our word choices, our energy. The uninvited resume is shadow leaking. On the surface, you are sharing interesting facts about your life. Beneath the surface, you are screaming that you are afraid she will not see your worth unless you point directly at it. And younger women have been detecting this pattern since they were teenagers. They have seen it from boys their own age trying too hard. They have seen it from men in clubs, in workplaces, on dating apps. They recognize it instantly. The moment you begin proving without being asked, you join every other man who has done the same thing. You become common. And common men do not create attraction. Here is what Machiavelli understood about power that most people miss entirely. He said that true power appears effortless. The prince who constantly displays his strength reveals that his strength is not secure. The prince who acts from quiet confidence makes others believe his power has no limit. Attraction follows the same principle. The man who lets his value reveal itself naturally through the texture of conversation creates mystery. He suggests that there is more beneath the surface. He implies depth without demanding she see it. The man who offers his resume creates no mystery at all. He has shown everything. There is nothing left to discover. And attraction requires discovery. It requires her to feel that she is uncovering something, that she is seeing beneath the surface, that she is earning access to who you really are. When you hand her everything up front, you rob her of this experience. Think about why women are drawn to certain kinds of stories. Why mystery and tension and slow revelation create emotional investment. The psychology is identical. She wants to feel like understanding you is an unfolding process, not a transaction where you dump information and wait for her response. Robert Cialdini identified a principle he called scarcity. We value what is rare. We desire what is not freely available. We invest in what requires effort to obtain. When you offer proof freely, you violate scarcity at the deepest level. You are saying your value is available to anyone who will listen. That your worth is something you give away. That understanding you requires no investment. And what requires no investment creates no desire. So what do you do instead? You let her discover you through questions she initiates. This requires patience. It requires comfort with silence. It requires faith that your value will become visible through how you carry yourself, not what you claim about yourself. When she asks what you do for work, answer simply. Let her follow up if she is curious. Do not expand into justification or elaboration. When conversation touches your experiences, share what is relevant to the moment. Not what is impressive. Relevant. The difference is everything. Relevance serves connection. Impressiveness serves ego. And she can feel which one you are serving. Gracian wrote that the wise man does half and lets imagination do the rest. He understood that suggestion is more powerful than statement, that what is implied carries more weight than what is declared. This is the energy that creates attraction in younger women. Not hiding who you are, not playing games, not pretending to be less than you are. Simply allowing who you are to emerge through presence rather than performance. There is a moment in every conversation where a man who has stopped performing becomes visible. His breathing slows. His need to fill silence disappears. His words start coming from somewhere deeper than strategy. And in that moment, something in her relaxes too. She stops evaluating. She stops comparing. She starts feeling. This is where real connection begins. Not in the resume. Not in the proof. Not in the demonstration. In the space that opens when two people stop performing and simply exist together. Most older men never reach this space with younger women because they cannot stop performing long enough to let it emerge. The uninvited resume keeps them on stage, and the stage keeps them separated from real intimacy. If you recognize this habit in yourself, the cure is simple but not easy. The next time you feel the urge to prove something, do not speak. Let the silence exist. And trust that your presence says more than your words ever could. Habit number 2. Telegraphing your interest too early. There is a principle in military strategy that Sun Tzu emphasized repeatedly. Never reveal your position until the moment of engagement. The general who shows his forces too early loses the element of surprise. He gives his opponent time to prepare, time to strategize, time to strengthen defenses. The same principle governs attraction. When you reveal your interest before she has earned it, you lose your position entirely. And older men do this constantly. Often within the first minute of interaction. It shows in body language, leaning in too far, sustained eye contact that feels like examination, facing her fully while she angles away. It shows in vocal tone, too warm, too eager, too quick to laugh at things that are not funny. It shows inattention. Tracking her movements, remembering every detail she mentions, referencing things she said earlier as proof that you were listening closely. Each of these behaviors communicates the same message. I have already decided I want you. Before you have done anything, before I know anything real about who you are. And this is deeply unattractive to younger women. Not because they want to be ignored, not because they enjoy cruelty or coldness, but because premature interest removes their power. Here is what you need to understand about feminine psychology at the core. Women experience attraction through the process of creating it. When a man arrives already attracted, she has created nothing. She has influenced nothing. She has contributed nothing to the dynamic. And what we do not contribute to, we do not value. This is why playing hard to get has worked for centuries. Not because women enjoy games, but because the pursuit of something creates psychological investment, and investment creates desire. Kahneman called this the effort heuristic. The more effort something requires, the more value we attribute to it. The easier something comes, the less we believe it is worth. When you telegraph interest immediately, you become the easy option. And the easy option never generates passion. The correction is not coldness. The correction is not manipulation. The correction is genuine standards. You should not be interested in her yet, because you do not know her yet. You have seen her appearance. You know nothing about her character, her values, her depth as a human being. When you can genuinely hold that frame, your energy shifts automatically. You become the man who is still deciding. The man whose approval means something because it is not given freely. The man who might be interested, depending on what he discovers. And that uncertainty creates space for attraction to grow. Let her earn your interest through who she reveals herself to be. That is not a tactic. That is genuine self-respect. Habit number 3. Reacting to tests instead of responding. Every younger woman will test an older man. This is not cruelty. This is not game playing. This is hardwired survival programming that has existed in feminine psychology forever. She needs to know if your strength is real or performed. And she discovers this by applying pressure and watching how you respond. The tests come in many forms. Playful challenges to something you said. Questions about your intentions. Comments about the age gap delivered with ambiguous tone. Small provocations designed to trigger defensiveness. Most older men fail these tests immediately. They fail by reacting. Reaction is emotional. It is immediate. It is driven by the need to correct, defend, or reassure. Response is considered. It is grounded. It is driven by internal security rather than external pressure. When she makes a joke about you being old enough to be her father, the reactive man flinches. He explains. He justifies. He distances himself from the implication. And in that flinch, she has her answer. His confidence is not real. Pressure dissolves it. His strength is a mask that slips when challenged. The responsive man handles the same comment differently. He smiles. Perhaps he agrees with amusement. Perhaps he plays with it, rather than pushing it away. He does not need the comment to be false. He does not need her to reassure him. He simply is what he is. And that groundedness communicates more than any words could. Epictetus taught that we control nothing in this world except our own responses. External events are neutral. Only our judgments make them positive or negative. This philosophy is the foundation of passing every test she will ever give you. The test itself does not matter. What matters is the stability of your response. Jung would add another layer to this understanding. When we react emotionally to something, It is because that thing has touched a wound we have not healed. The man who reacts defensively to age, comments, carries unhealed shame about aging. The man who responds neutrally has already integrated that reality into his identity. He has made peace with it. There is nothing left to defend. And here is what shifts everything. She is not actually trying to hurt you with these tests. She is trying to feel safe. She is trying to confirm that the man in front of her is solid, that he can handle pressure, that he will not crumble when life becomes difficult. The test is not an attack. It is an invitation to prove what she hopes is true. When you understand this, tests become opportunities rather than obstacles. Each one is a chance to demonstrate through behavior what you could never prove through words, that you are grounded, that you are stable, that external pressure does not shake your sense of self. And when she feels this consistently, something remarkable happens. The testing stops, because she has found what she was looking for. Habit number 4. Explaining your attraction to her. This habit seems innocent, even romantic, but it is poison. When an older man tells a younger woman why he finds her attractive, he believes he is complimenting her. He believes he is building connection. He believes he is expressing genuine appreciation. What he is actually doing is surrendering his position. Here is why. The moment you explain your attraction, you have given her complete power over the dynamic. You have told her exactly what draws you. You have revealed your vulnerabilities. You have mapped the territory of your desire. And in that revelation, mystery dies. Robert Greene wrote extensively about the laws of seduction. One principle appears repeatedly throughout his work. Desire lives in uncertainty. When she knows exactly why you want her, she no longer needs to wonder. She no longer needs to reach toward you. She no longer needs to invest in discovering what you feel. But there is something even deeper happening here. When you explain your attraction, you are implicitly asking her to validate your choice. You are saying, "These are the reasons I find you worthy." The unspoken question beneath this is, do you agree that these reasons are good enough? And the man who seeks validation for his own desires has already lost. Schopenhauer taught that desire itself is the root of suffering. The man who desires and explains his desire binds himself to the object of that desire. He becomes dependent. His well-being now rests on something outside his control. The man who desires without explanation remains free. He wants what he wants without justification. He does not need her to understand his attraction. He does not need her to approve of it. This creates an entirely different energy. She feels wanted, but she cannot quite grasp why. She feels drawn to him, but she cannot explain the pull. There is something operating beneath logic, beneath language, beneath conscious understanding. And that uncertainty keeps her engaged. I have watched men talk themselves out of attraction countless times. They meet a woman. Energy exists between them. Something is building. And then he starts explaining. You have such a unique perspective. Your energy is different from other women. I love how passionate you are about your work. Each explanation is a nail in the coffin of desire. Not because the observations are wrong, but because explaining attraction transforms it into something rational. And rational is the opposite of passionate. Let her feel your desire through presence, through attention, through the quality of your engagement with her, never through explanation. Habit number 5. Seeking her approval through agreement. This is perhaps the most common habit I observe, and it operates so subtly that most men will never recognize it in themselves. Watch what happens when a younger woman shares an opinion. The older man nods. He agrees. He validates, even when he does not actually agree, even when he has a different perspective. even when genuine engagement would mean challenging her thinking. He agrees because agreement feels safe. It feels connecting. It feels like he is building rapport. But here is what he is actually communicating. Your approval matters more to me than my own truth. And this is devastating to attraction. Nietzsche wrote about the will to power as the fundamental drive of all life. Not power over others, but power over oneself. The ability to act from internal authority rather than external validation. The man who abandons his own perspective to gain approval has surrendered his will to power. He has made her the authority on reality. He has positioned himself as subordinate. He has revealed that his opinions flex based on what will gain acceptance. And subordinate men do not create attraction. This does not mean you should disagree for the sake of disagreement. That is equally weak. That is reaction, not response. What it means is that you should engage genuinely. If you agree, agree from genuine resonance. If you disagree, express it without aggression, but also without apology. The willingness to hold a different position creates polarity, and polarity creates attraction. Think about the men in her life she has felt genuinely drawn to. They were not men who agreed with everything she said. They were men who had their own perspectives. Men who challenged her thinking. Men who made her argue for her positions. This challenge is not conflict. It is engagement. It is the acknowledgement that her ideas are worth considering seriously enough to disagree with. When you simply validate everything, you are not taking her seriously. You are managing her. You are handling her like something fragile. And younger women sense this instantly. They know when agreement is genuine and when it is strategy. The cure is simple. Start saying what you actually think. Not harshly, not combatively, but honestly. When she shares an opinion you disagree with, express your different view. Let the conversation become an actual exchange of perspectives rather than a performance of unity. Something remarkable happens when you do this. She starts respecting you. Because respect requires the possibility of disagreement. We cannot respect someone who agrees with everything we say. Agreement without standards is meaningless. But when someone with clear intelligence and experience disagrees thoughtfully, we are forced to take them seriously. That seriousness is the foundation of genuine attraction, not manufactured rapport, not performed similarity. Genuine engagement between two people with their own perspectives. This is what creates the tension that becomes desire. Habit number 6. Apologizing for your desires. There is a specific pattern I see in older men that breaks my heart every time I witness it. A man feels genuine desire. He wants something. He wants connection. He wants intimacy. He wants her. And he is ashamed of wanting. This shame shows in countless small ways. In the reluctance to express interest directly. In the constant softening of statements. In the way he frames every move toward intimacy as if it might be unwelcome. He apologizes without speaking any apology. And younger women feel this apology like a cold wind. Freud would say this pattern comes from internalized guilt, from messages absorbed in childhood about what is acceptable to want, from the belief that male desire is somehow predatory, dangerous, problematic. But Freud would also say that repressed desire does not disappear. It transforms into something twisted. What should be natural and life-affirming becomes shameful and hidden. And shame is the death of attraction. Here is what younger women actually experience when they encounter apologetic desire. They feel distrusted. Your apology tells them that you believe your desire might harm them, that you are not sure if your want is welcome, that you need constant reassurance that your interest is not threatening. This positions her as fragile, as something that might break under the weight of being wanted. And she is not fragile. She is a woman who knows she is attractive. She is accustomed to being desired. What she is not accustomed to is being desired by a man who owns that desire without apology. That is the man who stands out. Not the aggressive man who crosses boundaries. Not the timid man who hides his want. The grounded man who desires openly, cleanly, without shame. Dostoevsky wrote about the underground man, the character who was so alienated from his own instincts that he could never act directly. Every impulse was filtered through layers of analysis and doubt until nothing genuine could emerge. Many older men have become underground men in their relationships with women. They cannot simply want. They must analyze their wanting, question it, justify it, apologize for it. And in all that processing, the wanting itself becomes polluted. What should be a simple, clean energy becomes complicated and murky. She feels the pollution even if she cannot name it. Something is off. Something does not quite land. The attraction is there, but it feels strange. This is apologetic desire in action. The cure requires work that goes beyond behavior. It requires healing your relationship with your own wanting. You must genuinely believe, at the level of your nervous system, that your desire is welcome. That masculine desire is a gift when offered from a grounded place. That wanting a woman is natural, healthy, and life-affirming. Until you believe this, you will continue apologizing in 1,000 subtle ways, and she will continue feeling that apology as distance. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a man must accept his own nature completely, not fight against it, not wish he were different, but embrace the full reality of what he is. This includes your desire. You are a man who wants women. This is not shameful. This is not something to manage or minimize. It is part of being alive. When you can own this fully, your entire energy transforms. Desire without apology is magnetic. It draws women toward you not through strategy, but through simple authenticity. She knows where she stands, she knows what you want, she can relax into the clarity. And in that relaxation, her own desire has space to emerge. Now let me pause here to address something important. If you have watched until this point, you are not like most men who will click on this video. Most will drop off in the first 2 minutes. They will decide this is not for them. They will return to the same patterns that have not been working. You are still here. That tells me something about you. You are ready to see yourself honestly. You are willing to examine patterns that might be uncomfortable to face. You are committed to real change, not surface tactics. This is rare, and it is exactly this quality that makes the difference between men who transform and men who stay trapped. The habits we have discussed so far are not difficult to understand intellectually. Any man can hear these patterns and nod in recognition. Yes, I do that. Yes, I see it now. But recognition is not transformation. Transformation requires the willingness to stay in discomfort, to see yourself clearly without flinching, to hold the gap between who you have been and who you could become. Carl Jung called this shadow work, the process of integrating the parts of ourselves we have hidden, denied, or pushed away. Everything we have discussed today is shadow material. The need to prove, the telegraphing of interest, the reaction to tests, the explanation of attraction, the seeking of approval, the apologizing for desire. Each of these comes from a part of yourself you have tried to manage rather than accept. And the final habit we will discuss is perhaps the deepest shadow of all. It is the pattern that creates all the other patterns, the root from which every other mistake grows. If you can uproot this one, everything else begins to correct itself naturally. Stay with me. What comes next will change how you see yourself entirely. Habit number 7. Needing her to complete you. This is the root. Every habit we have discussed traces back to this single psychological pattern. The belief that you are not enough as you are. The sense that something is missing. The feeling that she holds the key to your wholeness. When a man carries this belief, it poisons everything he does. He offers proof because he fears his value alone is insufficient. He telegraphs interest because he is desperate not to lose his chance at completion. He reacts to tests because his identity depends on her acceptance. He explains attraction because he needs her to validate his choice. He seeks approval because her agreement makes him feel temporarily whole. He apologizes for desire because he believes his wanting is a burden on her. All of it. Every single pattern. Coming from the same wound. Schopenhauer saw this clearly 200 years ago. He wrote that romantic love is an illusion. A trick nature plays on us to ensure reproduction. We believe we are pursuing happiness, but we are actually pursuing a fantasy that can never satisfy. This sounds cynical, but there is wisdom here. When you expect a woman to complete you, you are pursuing an illusion. No person can fill a void that exists within your own psyche. No relationship can substitute for the work of becoming whole yourself. And younger women sense this void immediately. They feel it in how you look at them. Like you are seeking salvation. Like they hold power over your well-being. And this burden kills attraction faster than any specific behavior ever could. Here is what most men do not understand about what younger women actually want from older men. They want a complete man. Not perfect. Complete. A man who has done the inner work. A man who has faced his shadows. A man who knows who he is without needing external validation to confirm it. This man is rare, and his rarity makes him magnetic. When you enter an interaction already whole, already complete, already at peace with yourself, something entirely different happens. You stop performing because you have nothing to prove. You stop seeking because you have nothing missing. You stop needing because you are already full. And from this fullness, you can offer genuine presence, not presence designed to get something from her, not presence as strategy, but true presence. Being with another human being without agenda. This is the most attractive thing an older man can offer. Not his resources, not his experience, not his status, his presence. Jung would say this state comes from individuation. The process of becoming a complete, integrated self. The lifelong work of facing every part of yourself and bringing it into conscious awareness. A man who has done this work carries a different energy than other men. He is not looking for rescue. He is not seeking completion. He has already found the center of himself. And when such a man shows interest in a woman, she knows it is a choice, not a need. He wants her, but he does not need her. This distinction changes everything. Need creates pressure. Want creates desire. Need contracts. Want expands. Need grabs. Want invites. She can feel the difference in every interaction. When you approach from need, she feels like prey. Something you are trying to capture. Something you require for your own survival. When you approach from want, she feels like an opportunity. Something you are choosing to explore. Something that could enhance what you already have. And she would rather be wanted than needed. This is not selfishness on her part. This is survival instinct. A man who needs her will become dependent. A man who needs her will make demands. A man who needs her will eventually resent her for failing to fill a void she was never capable of filling. The needy man is dangerous. Not physically dangerous, emotionally dangerous. He carries an emptiness that will eventually become her responsibility. And she has learned, through experience or instinct, to recognize this emptiness before it traps her. So how do you become whole? How do you heal the void that creates all these patterns? This is not work that can be done in a single video, but I can point you toward the beginning. It starts with sitting with yourself, not distracting, not filling silence with noise, not escaping into entertainment or achievement or women. Just sitting with yourself. In that silence, you will meet the parts of yourself you have been running from. The fears, the wounds, the beliefs about your own inadequacy. This is uncomfortable. Most men avoid it their entire lives, but there is no way around it. Only through. Epictetus taught his students that freedom comes from wanting nothing external. The man who needs nothing from the world is completely free. The man who needs something from the world is always a slave. You do not need her. When you know this fully, you become the kind of man she actually wants. The paradox is complete. The man who does not need the woman is the man the woman desires. The man who needs the woman repels her by the very act of needing. This is not a game to be played. This is a truth to be embodied. And embodiment takes time. It takes work. It takes the courage to face yourself honestly. But the reward is transformation. Not just in your relationships with women. In your entire relationship with life. The complete man walks differently, speaks differently, experiences the world differently. He is home within himself wherever he goes. And that home is what everyone around him unconsciously longs for. Let us bring everything together. 7 habits that kill attraction. Offering proof before she asks for it. Telegraphing your interest too early. Reacting to tests instead of responding. Explaining your attraction to her. Seeking her approval through agreement. Apologizing for your desires. And beneath them all, needing her to complete you. These habits share a common root. They all emerge from insecurity. They all communicate that you are not enough as you are. They all reveal a man who is looking for something outside himself. And this is precisely what repels younger women. Not because they are cruel, not because they enjoy watching men struggle, but because nature has programmed them to select for strength. Real strength. The kind that comes from within. Hobbes wrote that life in the state of nature is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. This was his description of existence without social order. But there is a deeper truth here. For most of human history, survival was uncertain. Women had to choose partners who could protect, provide, and persist through hardship. And the signals of that capacity have not changed. A man who needs external validation to feel complete will crumble when life becomes difficult. A man who seeks approval from others has no internal compass to guide decisions. A man who apologizes for his own nature will be unable to protect what matters. These patterns are not just unattractive. They signal danger. The danger that when things become hard, this man will collapse. And younger women, whether they articulate it or not, are reading these signals constantly. They are evaluating whether you are a man who can hold steady when the world shakes. The 7 habits tell her you cannot. The absence of these habits tells her you might. Now here is what I want you to understand as this video ends. This is not about performing confidence. This is not about pretending to be complete when you are not. Performance eventually fails. Pretending eventually reveals itself. This is about doing the real work. The work of facing your insecurities instead of hiding them. The work of healing the wounds that create needy behavior. The work of becoming genuinely whole. This work is not easy. It is not quick. It does not happen from watching videos. But it is the only work that actually matters. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors the bold. But there is a deeper meaning to this. Boldness is not recklessness. Boldness is the willingness to face reality without flinching. The bold man looks at his own patterns honestly. He acknowledges where he has been weak. He commits to change not from shame, but from a desire to become more himself. This is the energy that changes everything. Not tactics, not techniques, not manipulation, but the fundamental decision to stop abandoning yourself in search of external completion. When you make this decision fully, something shifts in how the world responds to you. Women notice. They cannot explain what is different, but they feel it. You have stopped leaking need into every interaction. You have stopped performing value and started embodying it. You have stopped seeking completion and started offering presence. And presence is the most valuable thing any man can give. Before I let you go, I want to speak directly to something I know some of you are feeling. You might be thinking this is too hard, too much work, too long a road. You might be wondering if there is a faster way, a shortcut, a technique that avoids all this inner work. There is not. And every man who tells you there is wants something from you. The real path is slower, but it is the only path that leads somewhere real. And here is what waits for you if you walk it. Not just better interactions with women, a better relationship with yourself. The peace that comes from no longer abandoning your truth for approval. The freedom that comes from no longer needing anyone to complete you. The power that comes from knowing exactly who you are. This is what the dark psychology of attraction ultimately teaches. Not how to manipulate others, but how to stop manipulating yourself. Not how to create false impressions, but how to remove the barriers to genuine connection. Not how to win at games, but how to stop playing games entirely. The man who has done this work does not need strategies with women. His presence is the strategy. His wholeness is the attraction. His grounded masculinity is the draw that no technique could ever replicate. This is what I want for you. Not tricks that work temporarily, but transformation that lasts. If this video has landed, if you feel something shifting in how you see yourself, then subscribe to this channel. What we explore here is different from what you will find elsewhere. We do not offer quick fixes. We offer real understanding. We do not teach manipulation. We teach self-mastery. And self-mastery is the only path to genuine power in relationships and in life. Nietzsche wrote that a man must give birth to himself. No one else can do it for him. No relationship can substitute. No woman can provide what only you can build within yourself. This is the work that matters. This is the path that transforms. And if you are ready to walk it, I will be here, sharing what I have learned, pointing toward what actually works, not the easy path, the real one. Thank you for staying until the end. Most would not have. That choice tells me everything about who you are becoming. I will see you in the next one.